So sometimes with psychic abilities, it needs a bit of like tuning to the right radio channel. It's like, sometimes you hear this like the radio channel is not there. But then when you start tuning and searching for where is the music, then suddenly you find this channel and the music is there. And it's the same with your psychic abilities. Welcome to the Seeing in the Dark podcast, the podcast for new ways of leading and doing business. No more separation between money, power, and leadership, and being a deeply spiritual human being. Seeing in the Dark is about walking paths that have not been walked before and truly making a change in a world in which old ways are crumbling. My name is Nicole Nima Costeres, CEO of a multiple six-figure soul-based business, and here to take you into the mysteries of purpose, power, intuition, and soul-based leadership. May you embody your own unique essence so deeply that your vibration naturally teaches, inspires, and assists others. Let's dive in. Welcome to Seeing in the Dark. In this week's episode, I'm going to share with you about psychic abilities, about the 6 psychic senses. And it's a topic that maybe you haven't heard me share about a lot, but mediumship has been one of the ways that truly allowed me to surrender to the unknown, to surrender to the mystery. And so the way I've been working with my psychic abilities in my mediumship, the same way I'm working with my psychic abilities in my business, in my launches, in creating my offers, in sensing into the audience for what they're longing for, what they're needing. So I'm super excited to dive into this topic today because you might not know this about me, actually, that I've been working for quite some years as a psychic medium. I was working, giving one-on-one readings to connect with loved ones in spirit. I've been giving psychic readings, meaning that I connect with an alive person. I've been actually also doing for a while animal readings. I was reading pregnant women and their babies inside their wombs. I have been, like all kinds of versions of mediumship I've been deeply studying and working with. And the first thing that you might think is deeply studying. What do you mean deeply studying? Why would you study mediumship? Isn't that something that is naturally with you? And the answer is yes. Mediumship and psychic abilities is a quality that all of us carry within. Like, not all of us have the same level of natural openness in it, and not all of us will develop it to a stage where we can work as mediums in front of audiences, but all of us have the ability inside of us to develop our psychic abilities. It's just something that we don't learn in school, right? So it's like this muscle that we have in our bodies, and yet it's not being trained. So if you go like, oh, isn't mediumship and developing your psychic abilities something only for the chosen ones? And the answer is no, because over all of the years that I was teaching mediumship, I never met a single person that couldn't develop their psychic senses and their ability to connect to the spirits. So that's a really beautiful thing, because I remember this one woman that was in a 3-evening workshop. And 2 out of the 3 evenings, she was like, I don't know how to do this. I cannot do it. This is not an ability that I have. And on the 3rd evening, it clicked. So sometimes with psychic abilities, it needs a bit of like tuning to the right radio channel. It's like, sometimes you hear this like the radio channel is not there. But then when you start tuning and searching for where is the music, then suddenly you find this channel and the music is there. And it's the same with your psychic abilities. Now, if you're still wondering like, okay, but for the people who have this talent naturally, why would you study it? Because I was also like this. When I was a child, I would see the spirits very clearly. I would feel them. I remember seeing colors and shapes. And my mom told me stories that I would come home from school and I would know exactly what we're going to have for dinner without her telling me. I also told her we're going to move to a house at the water, 2 houses from a bridge. And that was actually the house that my mom and stepdad still live in today. So there was this ability and sensitivity with me from a very early age on. And the reason why I started studying is a few. One is I started during my teenage years to become really scared for the spirit world. Like I was scared for the unseen. I thought people were following me, like that spirits were following me, that when I would look in the mirror, I always had a feeling someone would be standing behind me and I would look behind me and not see anyone. And it would just give me the creeps, you know? And then also as a teenager, I started watching horror movies way too young and I got even more scared. And so there was this moment where I decided I want to either develop this and understand it better and release my fears, or I want to close it down completely. And it was a very easy decision for me because I was way too curious to close it down, of course. And so I found my teacher, José Goschalk, a really beautiful, super powerful medium that lives in the Netherlands. At the moment, she's retired, so I'm not sure if she teach every now and then. She might still teach a little bit, but I decided to join her 3-year training together with her husband, Karel. And for 3 years, I was studying mediumship. I was developing that muscle. And my teacher used to always say, and I really love this, and this is why I am bringing this work back again, also for coaches and body workers, for healers, for therapists. I feel it's such a beautiful muscle to train because my teacher always said, when you are born with a talent for soccer, you need to train to become a professional soccer player, right? Yet when it comes to mediumship or like using your psychic abilities, a lot of them would say, no, I have this naturally. I don't need to train this, right? But why not? You have a talent for it. Why not crystallize this talent into the amazing potential that it holds? And so for 3 years, I was studying with them and I was learning this language of energy, because that's what it is. When you're diving into the realms of mediumship and psychic abilities, it's like learning a new language. So as you're starting to learn this language that works through your 6 psychic senses, it's like in the beginning you learn a word and it's like, oh my God, I'm feeling this. What does this mean? You know, and you need to learn the translation of that sensation. Because when you're going into the language of energy and psychic abilities and mediumship, it's like the communication happens through the clear seeing or the psychic seeing. It goes through the psychic sensing, to the psychic hearing, smelling, tasting. And so as you receive information through these psychic senses, it's up to you to learn the translation of it, because there's not a set meaning. It's not like, oh, love means in Dutch liefde. No, it means like a sensation that you are sensing has a specific meaning for you, right? Because this language works through your own reference points. It works through your own experiences in life. And so I want to share with you these 6 psychic senses today for you to get a deeper understanding of how they work, and also for you to get a deeper understanding of, have you ever experienced that? One of the most difficult things in this work of developing your psychic abilities and your mediumship is that it is very close to where fantasy also comes in. So, for example, when we would tap into clairvoyance, which is the psychic seeing, if you take a moment to close your eyes and imagine a blue monkey. Now, where you see that blue monkey is where the clairvoyant pictures come in, right? So can you understand that it's very easy when you fantasize about something or when you receive information psychically, that it's a very similar place where the information comes in. And this is what makes it so difficult to trust. The good news is you can train to distinguish between what is fantasy and what is psychic information. And the only way to distinguish that is by giving yourself permission to fully trust, even if you think you're making it up. And then secondly, to practice a lot, because it's through practicing that you receive feedback that you will start to tune to that channel of your psychic, where your psychic information comes in, and to learn to understand how fantasy comes in, to learn to understand how inner information comes in, and to learn to understand how psychic information from the outside world comes in. It's so beautiful. And it's like, oh my God, even when I share about it, I literally get goosebumps because I can talk about this for hours and hours and hours. But okay, today I want to keep it also short and to the point. So as I was diving also into this language of energy, it's about learning the words first. And then maybe you start to form small sentences. And then maybe you start to be able to have simple conversations. And it's the same with your psychic abilities. In the beginning, it might feel like, I'm not feeling anything, only this small thing is here, and like, is that it? But it will take time to develop. And for some, immediately they will speak conversations. Like for some, there's just a natural talent there. So clairvoyance, psychic images coming in. Yeah, psychic images coming in. Second one, clairvoyance, by the way, was the one that was developed for me the strongest when I started. And I know there's a lot of mediums that will say, I'm a clairvoyant. Well, I don't believe that's true because you don't only have one psychic sense. It's like saying, ik ben een ziener. Sorry, I'm going to Dutch. It's like saying, I'm a seer. But no, you also have ears, right? You also hear. You also have feelings. You also sense. You also have an inner knowing. You also know. And it's the same with psychic senses. Like you don't only have clairvoyance because every image holds a feeling. Every feeling has a sound. Every sound has a smell, right? Like you just never went too deep in it, like deep enough in it to see that all your senses are actually in there. So for the clairvoyance in here, know that all these senses are available inside of you. And this is also one of the things that I teach in my online course, You Are Intuition. We go through all the training of all these senses, of all the psychic senses. We go through an exploration of understanding this language of energy, learning to make that distinguishment between what is fantasy and what is psychic information, to practice with each other, to get that feedback and to find a deeper trust, to make that connection with the spirit world, with alive people, with photos, and to learn to understand the difference between all of those. There's so many topics that we touch upon in this online course that I will be offering in November. So already giving you a small taster here. Okay, so the 6 psychic senses that I want to share with you. Let me just open my notes here so I don't skip anything. First one, clairvoyance, psychic sight, right? So it's that seeing, that inner seeing. Like I said, where you see the blue monkey is where this information comes in. Now, second one, clairsentience, which is the psychic feeling. It can be the feeling of emotions. It can also be the feeling of physical sensations, right? So for example, when I would have spirits come to me and they would show me that, or sense me that there was someone here that died of a stroke, for example, I would literally feel my face start to hang on one side. And then I would know, I have someone here that died of a stroke. Yeah, this modality, you guys, it's so beautiful. It's the English evidence-based mediumship. And I remember that, I'm just sidetracking here for a moment. I remember that when I started this journey and I decided to study this modality, it was because, first reason, I was super skeptical towards my own abilities in this. I was like, yeah, whatever, I cannot do this. Like, I don't really trust this. I think it's just cold reading that people do. Like, I was skeptical, even though I had the talent myself and I was experiencing all these things, I was really, really skeptical. So mediumship, training that, amazing healer for any skepticism that you carry to your intuition or towards life, like anywhere actually. Heal your skepticism through mediumship is amazing. And second reason was I could see that mediumship was a profession that was not always honored in the way it could, I guess. I think everybody can just put up a sign saying, hey, I'm a medium, and then start to offer sessions and not being like very like ethical with it, or just being a bit messy with it, or telling people things that you actually should really not tell them. You know, it's like I never liked the part of mediumship where mediums like take away responsibility of the person itself. So making predictions about when you're going to meet your new partner, or making predictions about what does he or she look like. It's like, for me, that's terrible, because instead I would say tune into the person and see what can they open up inside of them to welcome that dream partner into their lives. Because what if now Kim is going to search for Thomas with blonde hair and blue eyes, and actually the medium was sensing it a little bit of, and it's actually Ben with brown hair and brown eyes, you know? It's a bit fucked. So to not sidetrack too much, I chose this modality of English evidence-based mediumship because they train you to become super specific with the information. They train you to deliver evidence, so to speak. And it's quite an old modality that comes from a long, long time ago, where the mediums were like out of this world. I mean, still, there are some profound mediums that I had teachers, and they would channel phone numbers, license plates. They would channel addresses, names, like really, really specific information. I had teachers that would help in cases of missing people, right? Like that were working for the police, helping to find missing people that were missing. I had the most amazing teachers in this. Like, oh my God, let me tell you, it's really such a magical world, you know? And I feel evidence-based mediumship helped me to find a deep trust in my abilities, but also to teach this work in a way that it really becomes tangible. So that when I feel a love drum from spirit, I'm not just only saying, hey, I have your father here and he tells you that he loves you. No, I'm able to say, hey, I have your father here. And I noticed that he's sharing with me that he had a lot of pain in his body as he was dying from cancer. And he tells me that during that time in the hospital at the end of his life, he received so much love and support from you. And he just wants to say thank you for being there with him, right? He wants to let you know that he is not in pain anymore, and that he is feeling really, really healthy and joyful in the spirit world. And just the spirits will then give me so much precise information so that the receiver can really know it's my father here, right? And the same with the live people. It's just really beautiful when you can come with tangible information, because the message then lands also so much deeper. So to come back to the psychic senses, the second one, clairsentience, is the psychic feeling. So it could be physical sensations, or it can be emotions, for example. Taking a moment to close your eyes, I'm just going to show you an example of how that can sense in your body. Yeah, closing your eyes and just imagine that your stomach hurts really bad. Imagine that your stomach hurts. Now, the way you sense that in your body is how psychic feelings come in, right? Sometimes people ask me like, but isn't that really intense to do the work like this? And in the beginning, yes, it was very intense for me, but now it's just the way they talk with me. Now it's just the way I feel this information. So it's not that this information comes in and it stays with me. No, it's like I'm communicating these words to you and you hear the words and the words move through, right? It's not that a word gets stuck, or maybe a word gets stuck for a moment because there is an insight. but then the word leaves you naturally. And it's the same with this. It's like the words are just communicated through a different channel. All right, third one, clairaudience, is psychic hearing. Now, closing your eyes for a moment and imagining the sound of your phone ringing. The way you hear that is how psychic sounds come in, or words sometimes. Amazing. Okay, fourth one, claircognizance, is psychic knowing. Here I cannot give an example because you just know. This is also the most difficult one to develop because you just know. But clear knowing, psychic knowing, will develop as all the others are developing. So psychic knowing, you just know. You cannot really explain how you know, you just know. Psychic tasting, clairgustance, is the tasting of tastes in your mouth. Like, that's an example of smelling that comes up. I'll share in a moment. Psychic tasting can sometimes be that during a reading, I suddenly taste, okay, it's maybe a weird example, but I can suddenly taste strong liquor, like alcohol. And then I know that this person loves to have a drink, for example. That's one example. Also, sometimes when I have people come to me that have been using drugs or something, I can taste that in my mouth. How do I know what it tastes like? I have been experimenting a little bit when I was a teenager. And so I know the taste of it in my mouth, right? And then when a spirit or when I sense that in someone, I can literally taste it in my mouth. So closing your eyes for a moment and imagine the taste of your favorite meal in your mouth. Imagine that taste in your mouth. Now, this is how psychic tasting comes in. Nice. It's becoming a whole workshop here on the podcast. Sixth one, guys, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right because I know the Dutch word, but I think it's clairalience. Clairalience? I don't know. English people or English speaking people, correct me, send me a message if I'm saying it wrong, but it's psychic smelling. So it's when psychic smells comes in. I have for a while, when my grandmother would come, I would smell Earl Grey tea because like I even have it in my hands right now. Like I love to drink Earl Grey tea sometimes. It reminds me of my grandmother because her house would always smell like Earl Grey tea. And so that's one example of a smell. Like maybe you have ever even experienced it, that there's a certain smell and it reminds you of someone immediately, right? So if you would take a moment to close your eyes and then imagine the smell of a fresh baked pie in the oven. And how you experience that smell inside of you now, that's psychic smelling. And just see what examples I can give, if there's any other examples. Flowers. Sometimes people come to me from spirit and they have me smell flowers, or for example, flowers, tea, also drinks, smelling drinks sometimes. Yeah, sometimes the smell of the house, or like it's really beautiful, like what can come through the psychic smelling. And this is something that also you can actively train, something that I also teach in Your Intuition. Yeah, so those are the 6 ones. I've been drifting a bit off in between, so let me just name them one more time, all 6 of them. Clairvoyance, psychic sight; clairsentience, psychic feeling; clairaudience, psychic hearing; claircognizance, psychic knowing; clairgustance, psychic tasting; clairalience, psychic smelling. So those are the 6 psychic senses. Let me know what has been coming up for you during this episode, which is almost like a mini module, a mini module of getting to understand that you are intuition. You are a deeply intuitive being, and you can develop this muscle you can learn this language of energy through training your psychic abilities, your psychic senses. And I do so in my course, You Are Intuition, which is a program in which you're going to dive into developing your psychic abilities and mediumship, meaning your connection with the spirit world, in order to weave that into your work as a body worker, a trainer, a coach, a healer, whatever your work is. Or if you're like, but I'm not an entrepreneur, like I just really want to study this, also super welcome. I don't have a date yet because spontaneously I created this episode. The date is not available yet. But if you're interested, you can already send me a message and I can send you the link as soon as it comes out. And also you can just keep track on the podcast, because over the coming weeks, I will start to share more about mediumship, more about psychic abilities. And next week's episode, I want to share with you about the fear of spirits. I think it's a big one. I think many of us have been experiencing or are still experiencing fear of the spirits because we cannot see them, right? I mean, not in the way like you'll see me in this moment, or maybe you're listening and you don't see me, but next week, diving into fears of the spirits and how you can move with and through that and turn it into beautiful connection that is so rich and which you can learn so many things. So I'm excited to dive in next week. Let me know, reach out to me on my social media. Let me know how this episode was for you. I would love to hear from you. I wish you a beautiful week. If you felt inspired by this episode, please take a screenshot of it and share it. And I'm looking forward to connect again next week. Bye, loves. Did you receive any inspiration, motivation, or powerful breakthroughs by listening to this episode? Then please share this episode by taking a screenshot and tagging me in your stories at nicole.nima.costeres. I would love to celebrate you, share you in my stories, and it would mean so much to have my work reach more powerful, passionate women like you. Thank you so much, and looking forward to see you next week.